Okay? And as these things get worse and worse, there's going to be less food to be had. And with death, the death angel, remember, all he had to do was just show up and people died. And those who put the blood on the doorpost and lintel, they escaped the effects of the death angel. That's why you have Passover, because the death angel passed over the children of Egypt and took the firstborn of Egypt. Okay? Preserved Israel, but took the firstborn of Egypt. Now, it says, power was given unto them, that would be this angel of death, and hell following with him, over a fourth part of the earth. Now, these are tares, okay? And we know that because hell is following behind death to swallow them all up. And if this was the wheat, hell is not needed to follow behind to swallow us all up. We're not going to hell. We're going into the Lord's barn, okay? But do you see where I get these things? You have to really look at the scripture in detail. So you have hell following with death. That means tares. Hell will swallow them all up like a whale swallowing plankton by the millions, okay? And power was given unto them, that's death and hell, over the fourth part of the earth. And I think we're talking about that geographic 1/4 where that's Eastern Europe, Western Asia, all the stands in there, all the Ecastans, Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, Egypt, Libya, Ethiopia, Sudan, all of these countries, I think is probably going to make up this 1/4. To kill with sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. Now, the beasts of the earth, this is an interesting deal because God put a sense of dread on them, like I told you, and it's being removed. Because now we've got all these tons of animal attacks. It's ridiculous. Now, the death angel, then we have the martyrs. Now, we have martyrs happening all the time, okay? Martyrs are being made all the time, but I think we're still looking at this 1/4 of the earth, more or less, geographic 1/4. Because as you can see, these horsemen affect everything over there first. Everything happens over there, and then it moves west. So that's where it happens first. Now, the 5th seal is martyrs, but this is just the start of these martyrs. Because it's saying in verse 11 of Revelation 6, and white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also, and their brethren, that should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled. You're going to have a ton of deaths real close to our evacuation. I don't know if before or after, but you've got martyrs here before Jesus shows up at the 6th seal. Whether these are Western martyrs, I don't know. But I think you're definitely looking at Middle Eastern martyrs. And you've been having those for a while now. See, we've been having these symptoms. Let's go on. I'm taking too long, aren't I? Okay, let's go on past that. Then the 6th seal, we're expecting the Lord to return in the sky. Now, Satan, well, the 6th seal, the Lord descends from heaven with a shout, like it says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 16 through 18. He descends into the second heaven, and a war takes place. You have great signs in the sun, moon, and stars as these things happen. And Satan and his 1/3 are cast down at this seal as well. The wrath shows up at the 6th seal. And I think this war happens in heaven for about 6 or 7 weeks, because the Lord's return has always been expected at the Feast of Trumpets at the last trump. And it's about 6 or 7 weeks, about 6 weeks between the blood moon on the 27th of July, 2018, right immediately after the temple is defiled. From between that blood moon and when the Lord shows up in the air at the last trump at the Feast of Trumpets, about 7 weeks, give or take. We can't know a day or an hour until we get to September 2018, and the priests see the new moon and declare the Feast of Trumpets has started. And once the priests do that, then we have our 48-hour notice. Okay? And I think that's probably how it'll end up happening. But that'll be cool. Now, in the sixth seal, you have a great earthquake, signs in the sun, moon, and stars, like what we were just talking about, stars of heaven falling onto the earth. The word refers to the angels as stars. Okay? And let's see. And then you have every mountain and island moved out of their places. This is going to be scary. And all the inhabitants of the earth are hiding underground at this point. Okay? Now, as this happens, I'm sure it just scares people to death for the evacuation to take place, for Jesus to show up in the sky, and then all the children are gone, and you've got millions of believers are gone. It's going to be scary for people who are still here. The sixth seal brings the wrath. And that's where our evacuation is. Because the Lord said, we are not appointed unto wrath, didn't he? We are not appointed unto wrath. We are going to escape this. Now, we'll escape the second half, but not the first half. But I'm starting to think that the first half might not be as bad as what we had thought it could be. Now, it may get kind of bad for people. But I think compared to what we thought sooner than this, it's probably not as near as bad. We may be able to slide through. Now, yeah, the mark is gonna come on the scene after the economic collapse, and you're gonna have a period of time where everybody's country looks like Venezuela, with lawlessness, martial law, people taking the law into their own hands for criminals and things like that. But things will normalize at a certain point. Now, it's not going to normalize for believers because we can't take the mark. We will not take the mark. And because we won't take the mark, the world looks at us as criminals who refuse to be identified. Are you prepared to be a criminal? As believers, we pride ourselves, which is not a good thing. We pride ourselves on being upstanding and great citizens, neighbors, friends, community leaders, that kind of thing, don't we? But you know what? In order to continue to follow Jesus during this time, you are going to become a criminal after the economy collapses and the mark system rises on the scene. If you don't take it, you're a criminal who would... They're going to say, why in the world would someone not want to be identified? And why would they walk away from all of their assets just to keep from being identified? See, that's how they look at it. To us, we're like, no, we can't take it because God said no, because God said so. But to them, that's not a good reason. They're not going to have any mercy on you. What they're going to do is they're going to treat you like a deadbeat who doesn't want to be identified so you can work and pay your bills. Well, we don't mind being identified. We just don't want to be branded like an animal to be identified. I got a driver's license, okay? I got a birth certificate. I can identify myself right now to anybody that needs it. But during this time that we're talking about, Refusing the mark means you walk away from any government benefits you collect, any Social Security money you collect, any anything like school grants, you won't get those without the mark. Housing subsidies, you won't get that. Food benefits, you won't get that. You won't get disability, you won't get anything. Even the parts that's your money, like Social Security, that's your money. You paid into it all your life, and the government was entrusted with it, which was a big mistake. And now they're not going to give it to you unless you take the mark. So what you're going to have to do is walk away from all of your digital resources. And that means you've got the clothes on your back, and you've got the things, the material things you have in your home or in storage or whatever to barter with. And that's all you got. It might not be a bad idea to have a little bit of cash stashed at home for those of you that have it. Now, we don't. We're just trusting God. Okay, that's the only choice we have. But for those of you that have the ability to stash a little bit of cash, you probably should. That way you can still function without an ATM while everything's down. Okay? Well, I don't know. It may not do you any... It won't do you any good to have these electronic assets if you can't access them. Well, it could be during that time that a good old-fashioned check might actually come in handy. And cash too. All right, let's keep going. So we have the wrath comes, Jesus shows up, sixth seal. Now, what happens after that? You have the 144,000 are sealed by God. Okay? Then the next event is you have, and these 144,000, they are 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. They're young, virgin, Jewish young men who have devoted themselves to studying the Torah and love the God of Abraham. I think they're given that information kind of supernaturally about Jesus when they're marked. Now, after that, you see the saints in heaven, okay? And we all will have white robes and palms in our hands. Now, after that, we have the seventh seal. That is going to bring silence in heaven for a half an hour, and it also brings the seven angels with the seven trumpet judgments. The seventh seal releases the seven trumpets, okay? And that's after Jesus has already come and evacuated us. So we have the seventh seal, and that's when the prayers are thrown down onto the altar and stuff like that. And fire from the altar, the censer and filled with fire from the altar is cast into the earth. Then the seven trumpets. Now what we have on the seven trumpets, well, let me back up a little bit, because if we go back here somewhere in seals 3 through 4, 3 and 4 or 5, we've got the temple in there somewhere. We've got a treaty that'll be signed at some point. Now, let me go ahead and review for you the tribulation perimeters that we came up with in our research. Looks like the trib started February 7th, 2015 and wraps up January 1st, 2022. Okay? With our midpoint being July 21st, 2018. 6 days later, you have a blood moon, July 27th. That's the center blood moon of the triad that straddles that year, 2018. January, July, January. So that looks like our midpoint, pretty much, okay? Now, in the meantime, we've got an economic system that's going to rise from the ashes that utilizes the mark. The Israeli government has the Ark of the Covenant. Yes, my love. What do you need, honey? Gigi's kind of busy here. Come here.
Well, is it almost night?
Is it almost night? No. Well, kind of. You see my pretty candle I lit? All right. Now, you can sit here while I'm telling people what's going on, okay? All right.
I want to see myself in.
Well, here, how about you see yourself over here, okay? You can see yourself over here when it comes up. Sorry, guys. Let me kind of Okay. Okay. Do you see yourself now?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, let Gigi finish here. At some point, we've got the Ark of the Covenant that is being held by the Israeli government. They say that they are not going to announce that they have it until the Mark of the Beast shows up. So, this is giving us some timing also if they stick by what they've said. Because once they reveal that they have the mark, the ark, once they reveal that they have the ark, then they have to rebuild the temple. And that's going to put Israel in a position where they need a treaty. Because see, right now, they don't care about a treaty. They couldn't care less about the treaty. Because there's nothing in them for it. Okay? You want to look at yourself over here? How's that?
Good.
There's no incentive for Israel to sign a treaty currently. Okay? So, but there will be. Once you have the economy collapse, the new system rises, the Mark of the Beast system comes online, then the Israeli government admits they have the Ark, which means they need the treaty, which means Israel will be in a position to negotiate. You got Yehuda Glick of the Temple Mount Faithful, who is now a member of the Knesset, and he's going to push to get this temple rebuilt. He's the perfect person to do that. Are you blowing my candle? Don't blow it out, okay?
Why?
Do you want a drink? Okay. How's that? Give you a drink, too. Okay. Now, so you see how these things trigger each other? It's like the mark triggers the Israeli government into admitting they have the ark. The ark means they have to build the temple. Since they have to build the temple, Israel is going to be willing to, they've suddenly got an incentive there to negotiate a treaty. These things kind of trigger each other. Can you see how that's working? Then we've got the 7 trumpets. We won't go into all of the effects of those right now. But then we've got this, the trumpet judgments are 3.5 years. So you've got the trumpet judgments from the midpoint, well, a little after the midpoint. Because you've got the 2 witnesses show up probably just before the temple is defiled. And I'll tell you how I know that. Now, let me show you something. Now, on the, here we go. Do you want something to write on, baby?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here you go. All right, don't write on Gigi's Bible, but you can write on this, okay? Here you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome, my love. I'm so proud of you that you're so polite, and you always say that. Good girl. Okay, now, it's okay. Hopefully y'all don't mind that my babies are coming in here. Okay. The 2 witnesses. We know they prophesy for 1,260 days. Look over at Revelation chapter 11. I think I have it. Look at Revelation chapter 11 real quick. Now, it tells us in chapter 11, verse 3, that these two witnesses prophesy 1,260 days. That's 3.5 years, right? But it also tells us that they are killed at the sixth trumpet. Sixth trumpet is where they are killed. I didn't know you could write your letters. Wow, you're so smart. You're so big. I didn't expect you to be able to write letters, but you sure can, can't you, big girl? Okay. Wow, I'm really heap impressed, actually. Amazing. All right.
What does this spell?
Wow, are you trying to write Isla's name? That looks like Isla. Well, here's Isla right here, if you write her name. Let's try to write that. You want to try to write that? Okay. The two witnesses prophesy for 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years. But they die at the sixth trumpet at the hands of a creature that comes out of the bottomless pit that's opened at the fifth trumpet.
Is this an S?
Ish, that's an S right there that you drew a while ago. That one is. And that one is. Now, when you count from the sixth trumpet, see there's 7 trumpets. And the 1,260 days, or the full 3.5 years, goes to the end of the 7th trumpet, which releases the 7 vials. Oh, that's so good. Now, if you count, see, so what I'm trying to show you is, since they die at the 6th trumpet, and there's 7 trumpets until the end of the second half, right? Are you sliding off? They die at the 6th trumpet, and then they are resurrected and raptured. Now they prophesy exactly 1,260 days.
How do you?
Shh, let Gigi finish her show, okay? You can draw. Now, if you take that 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years, from the 6th trumpet and go backwards, then it looks like the two witnesses show up before the temple is defiled, because the defiling of the temple to the end of the 7th trumpet is 3.5 years. Well, they die at the 6th trumpet, but they prophesy a full 1,260 days. So the two witnesses have to show up before the temple is defiled. How about that? Did you guys get that? Oh, thank you, Miss Deb. She said, Lisa, your babies are a beautiful sight and gladden our hearts. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you guys don't mind for them to be here. You know, this is my priority. It is my babies. My daughter's she had surgery today, and that's wreakage, but it's good to get to spend time with the kids. Okay, do you get what I'm saying? They prophesy a full 1,260, but the end of their full 1,260 days is at the 6th trumpet, not the 7th. And these things don't just happen, you know, one day and then the next day another one. I mean, we've seen how these things kind of spread out. And you're looking at 7 trumpet judgments over 3.5 years. Okay? Those are second half. So the two witnesses have to show up prior to the temple being defiled, don't they? Because where's the rest of my Bible? I wish I had we're almost to the top of the hour. I've got 2 minutes, and I'm just getting started here. Now, the temple's defiled, the witnesses prophesy, Israel flees, The Lord returns at the end of the trumpet judgments. Then you've got 30 days of vial judgments. And then you've got 45 days until the New Jerusalem descends. Then Jesus is here and ruling from the city. Huh? You see yourself? He's here and ruling from the city throughout the next 1,000 years. Now, Satan is caged during the first 900 years or so. And then right there close to the end, you'll have technology introduced again, like happened every single time over and over. Technology is introduced, and then within about 120 years, you have the world like what you see now around us that has been here before. And that's an interesting story how that works. But that's our calculations from Daniel. He talks about how you have 1260 on the front, 1260, then 30, then 45. And then that's when the New Jerusalem descends. Okay, Troy is taking us to a real quick break. Don't go away. We're not ending the show. We're still going to come back for our final segment, Learning the Word, right after this.